My name is Jerry Masters. I am a music person, and I have been since I was 5 years old. I have worked literally all over the world, but the biggest legacy of my career is the music we made at Shoals Sound Studios, where I really think that the true legacy of the mystery of Shoals music originated because of all the hits that we cut during the 70s. I was born and raised in Arkansas, in Little Rock, Arkansas. Our rent was based on what my mother's income was. It was about $20 a month at the most. I finally got a guitar when I was about 12, and I got different people to show me different chords. And then finally, before I went into the Army, my mother brought me a brand new Gibson EBO and a beautiful Fender amplifier. When I left Fort Devens, I had so much stuff I had to take with me. I didn't have enough room to carry my amp and my guitar too, so I left it with my best friend in Fort Devens, and I'm still waiting for it. But anyway, I got to Okinawa, and I went down to the USO, and I said, do y'all have a guitar down here I can borrow? They said, no, we don't have a guitar, but we've got an old bull fiddle back there if you want to take it. So I taught myself how to play bass, and I turned into a pretty good bass player. When I got out of the Army and moved back to Little Rock, there wasn't a lot of music in Little Rock, and that's one of the reasons that there weren't many musicians there. So we three of us moved to Memphis and started playing. I started meeting a lot of other artists that were all booked by the same booking agents in Memphis, a guy named Ray Brown. And I worked with Ace Cannon, I worked with Jerry Lewis, I worked with the Bill Black combo. Bill Black was Elvis Presley's bass player. Ray Brown called me into his office one day and he said, there's a hit record out there called Little GTO, but it's a studio record that was made by Buzz Cason and John Bucky Wilkins. So they cut this song in the studio called Little GTO, Ronnie and the Daytonas. But there was no such thing as Ronnie and the Daytonas. And they wanted the record promoted, but they didn't have a band. So Ray Brown says, well, I want you to put a band together and go out on the road as the Daytonas. And after about 3 or 4 years on the road, being a fake group, being somebody we weren't, playing someone else's record, on the way to do an album, and they wanted us to do another surfing type album like Little GTO. We were on our way, and the sun had just come up, and we came over this hill on Highway 59 between Texarkana, Arkansas, and Houston. And this truck full of chickens had hit this bridge embankment. And there were chickens everywhere. And the other 3 were asleep in the car. I was driving. I said, boys, y'all wake up. We done got us a chicken wreck here. And BB just kind of opened one eye and said, well, just let it all hang out. And I said, that's it. I knew that could be a catalyst that we could take and turn it into a fun song without protesting or anything political. And it worked overnight. It was an overnight sensation. We went from making $90 a week apiece to making $15,000 a night apiece. The Hombres broke up after about a year. I wanted to stay in music. I knew that I wasn't a good enough bass player to make a living at it, so I said, well, I'm going to be an engineer so I can control all of the music and make it sound the way I want it to sound, just the way I had my band sounding the way I wanted it to sound. I mentioned my friend Bill Black, who was Elvis Presley's bass player. Well, he had a studio in Memphis called Lynn Lou, and they would let me go in there during the day because they did most of their recording at night. I knew that if something goes in, it's got to come out, you know. So I figured out how to patch outboard gear, just plugging jacks into holes till I found something. In 1969, Travis Womack called me, who Travis and I had been friends in Memphis before either one of us even knew what a Muscle Shoals was. He calls me on the phone and says, can you come down to Muscle Shoals and play on a record? So I came down here and I played on a record for Rick at Fame called Patches by Clarence Carter. After the session was over, I was getting ready to go back. Rick said, well, it was nice working with you. I hope I can use you again. I said, well, you know, I need a job. He says, I don't need a full-time bass player. I said, but I'm an engineer too, even though I'd never done a session in my life. And he said, well, that's different. He said, if you want to move down here, I'll pay you $100 a week. I said, I'll take it. And I worked for Rick. We did One Bad Apple on the Osmonds. We did Sweet and Innocent on Donny Osmond. We did Candy Staten, Paul Anka, Wayne Newton. We cut some pretty big records during that. I was only with him for a year because the guys that had left him and went over to form their own studio at 3614 Jackson Highway had heard about my talent, and they wanted me to do an edit for them because I used to love to cut tape. And they asked me to come over and visit, and they offered me the job. So I went to work at Sound, and man, the hits just started coming. I mean, it seems like every artist that came in there walked out with a #1 hit. I hadn't been there 3 weeks, and I already had a platinum record on I'll Take You There by the Staple Singers. And then I had a gold record on Respect Yourself by the Staple Singers. Then right behind that, no more than 2 weeks later, I got a platinum record on an artist named Luther Ingram called If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right. But, I mean, I paid the price, you know. I did not have a vacation for 7 years. I had one vacation, and they ended up mixing a Boz Scaggs album on my vacation. So I went 7 years without a break. At the end of my career at Sound, we were recording the Sanford Townsend album, which had Smoke from a Distant Fire. And I worked on the album for about 3 weeks. It was being produced by Jerry Wexler and Barry Beckett. I had Barry sitting on one side of me, Jerry Wexler sitting on the other side, and Jerry Wexler would say, start the tape. Barry would say, don't start it yet. Then I'd start the tape eventually, and then Barry'd say, okay, punch in here. And Wexler would say, no, don't punch in yet. And at my state of mind, I just reached a point and I just stopped the machine. I stood up, walked out the door, got in my car, went home, got in my pickup truck, and got my motorcycles and went to Bruton Branch for a week. And I came back a week later, walked into the control room, sat down behind the console. Everybody else filed in, and we picked up right where we left off. And to this day, not one person ever said one word to me about why'd you do it or anything. I ended up in West Palm Beach, Florida, where a couple of friends lived. I stayed with them for 4 or 5 days. And I stopped by Criteria Studios in Miami to say hello to a good friend, Tommy Dowd. While I was standing out there talking to Tommy, Barry Gibb heard that I was in the building. The Bee Gees were recording in the studio. And Barry says, Jerry, come here, I want you to hear something. And he took me in the control room and put headphones on me and played me the new mix of Saturday Night Fever. And I got into music again. The Muscle Shoals sound is I don't know if there is a Muscle Shoals sound. I felt like that what we did in the 70s sort of set a standard. I've had a lot of people tell me they can always tell a song when they hear it on the radio that it was cut here. I think it's a spirit of music that is created from the singing river that the Indians named. It's really hard to explain, but I think it's a spiritual thing. But that river is like a magnet, a musical magnet. to musical talent. This place, there are great artists, songwriters, singers on every street corner in this town now.